Hello and welcome to another episode of Fractional Impact. Today we're speaking to Aaron Thompson, who has spent more than 2 decades working directly with customers across software and technology environments, helping organizations improve retention, strengthen customer outcomes, and build scalable customer success organizations. We'll talk about why customer success continues to be misunderstood, what healthy retention looks like, how AI is reshaping the function, and a lot more. Aaron, great to have you on. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I think you just kind of did for me, Stuart. I appreciate it. Thanks for the chance to hop on with you today. I kind of stumbled into customer success. I love telling my origin story to people. Nobody really goes to school for customer success management. There are some universities here in the States that actually have specialized tracks as part of their MBA programs and such, but most of us found it from sales or support or somewhere else in the organization. And my story was about 20 years of customer support and service. Every job I'd ever had was working with customers all the way back when I was 14, 15 years old, then through school and college and everything. And then I actually got laid off, and I'd never been laid off before. I was like 35, 36 years old. And I thought, what am I going to do next? I was kind of getting burned out on customer support, like the reactive firefighting and the just sort of like never really knowing what my day was going to look like, the chaos that comes with that. But I really liked helping customers. I really enjoyed that. I really liked helping people. So people were like, you should go into sales, And so I kind of looked at that, but I was later in my career and had never really been a full-on salesperson. And so long story short, I find this startup here in Portland, Oregon, where I'm based, and they're hiring a head of customer success to fix the churn problem. And so with my experience, I got that job and I came in on day one. I pulled out my laptop, and this is true. I went to Google and typed in, what is customer success? Now that I'm the head of this thing, I should probably know what the hell I'm doing. And lo and behold, I found technology players and conferences and networks and communities. And I started studying this thing and implemented and developed a strategy. And over the next 12 months, I took a 40% churn rate down to about 8% for this startup, and actually took them from going out of business to a position for acquisition. And about a year after that, they actually got acquired, and we had a pretty good exit. And that's when I founded my first company. After that 1 year, I thought I could start doing this in a fractional capacity for other startups and SMB companies to make sure that they don't find themselves in that same position. So That's how I kind of got started in this whole thing. And that was in 2017 when I stepped out, and I've been helping clients hopefully prevent that problem in the first place, or at the very least fix it if it's already broken ever since. So thanks for the chance to come chat with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to get more into that. We're joined as well by Zan from the Fractional Clients team. If you'd like to give a quick intro, Zan.
Thanks, Stuart. Yeah, so I'm Zan, and I assist with all things related to sales and client delivery at Fractional Clients. Aaron, I'm so passionate about customer success myself, so I'm really excited to get into the conversation with you today.
Oh, perfect. Me too.
So, Aaron, you've been doing sort of fractional customer success work since about 2017, and that was, of course, long before the whole fractional thing took off and became a bit of a buzzword. What made you go into that model so early, and what do you think has changed about how companies think about it now?
Yeah, well, the whole concept of fractional really started back in the 90s as companies were trying to find ways to right-size their books and realize they didn't necessarily need, and it was really more like the CEO, CFO is really kind of where it kicked off back in the 90s. And then it exploded in the early 2000s, and when companies started moving to SaaS and the cloud and all of that and everything as a service, that's where it kind of got its legs. When I got started in 2017, there weren't a lot of people doing customer success leadership fractionally. Not like there is today. There weren't a lot of people doing customer success for that matter. It was really a pretty new industry back then. It was really predicated on a repeatable revenue model. That's really what drove the need for it. So back in the on-premise technology days, like myself, old enough to remember implementing these big, heavy systems, you didn't necessarily need that repeatable revenue. You got it all kind of up front. And then once it became a subscription or as a service model, that's where retention became king. And that's when customer success really was born. And so back in 17, it was really more considered like a consultancy, right? Like I would come in and I either work with the CS leader to help them lay the groundwork that I had developed as the head of CS, and that, the practices, the best practices that I had uncovered, or work with the founders and the CEOs to build it from the ground up and then help them hire that kind of long-term position or whoever's going to be in that position. So I think most things in my career I've just sort of stumbled into. Like I had like 6 majors in college. I went to like 5 different schools, and yet somehow I graduated in 4 years exactly. Like it's just kind of like, I don't know, like it just sort of works out sometimes like that. And that's sort of how I found myself in this as well. Again, stumbling into what is customer success and that initial sort of head of CS role, developing the strategy and then realizing, oh my God, this actually works. This really had a profound impact on that business. I bet I could go do this on my own. And so I think I was like 38 years old or something like that, 39 years old with like a 2-year-old son, single on my own. And it was just like, not exactly how I would draw it up for him to be an entrepreneur for the first time. I'd never built a website. I'd never launched a company. I'd never done anything. But again, just kind of like fell into it. And initially I was really focused on here locally. We had a lot of SaaS startups here in Portland back then. And so I was going to be the CS guy here in Portland. And that was kind of my goal. Of course, the total addressable market doesn't exactly lend itself to a lot of growth if you limit yourself to that. So then I expanded out and started getting down into Silicon Valley. And that was when things really started taking off for me. And so, I've been doing this for 10 years, but it's taken a lot of different kind of iterations, if you will. Like for a big chunk of it, I was working in an education company, training, certifying, doing public speaking in customer success. I was really focused on that for about 6.5 years. I ran a sales organization for a while in customer success. I ran sales for an AI company in customer success. And now I'm kind of back out doing the more traditional fractional CS work now. And it's just been a journey, and all of it's been customer success focused, because again, it was like when I found this industry, I felt like I found my home. I had sort of just done whatever throughout my career. And then I was able to look back and say, oh my God, every job I've had applies to this thing. I've actually got real world experience in this going way back. And I never really expected all the different dots to connect like that. So I was really grateful when I found it. And I'm just really passionate about helping people, first off, understand what it is and why it's not support or service and things like that. And then help them not find themselves in that problem that I talked about earlier, that churn issue. I hope that answers the question. I don't know, I'm just rambling, Stuart. You'll get used to me.
No, all good. Yeah, all good stuff. All good to know. A lot of customer success leaders talk about proving the ROI of customer success to the C-suite. What do you think is the most effective way that you've seen that done, and what are most teams potentially getting wrong?
Yeah, let's start with what people get wrong, because they've been getting it wrong for the 10-ish years that I've been in this industry. It's really easy for customer success leaders to mistake activity for outcomes. And for a long time, they measured the impact of customer success by how much activity customer success was doing. So how many QBRs were you running? How many touch points did you have with your clients? How much dashboarding data did you have? Health scoring, red, yellow, green, all these kinds of predictive models and all of this stuff. But they didn't ever tie it back to what that meant for revenue. And that was the drum that I started beating back in 2018. I started kind of traveling around the world, speaking at customer success conferences. It was that you got to hold a number. Customer success at its core is a revenue generating growth mechanism for the business. That's literally what it was designed to do. And that's what the goals of a CS organization should be. However, what we end up measuring is activity. When's our next meeting, and what are we doing, and how often do we talk to them? Happiness, like that matters, right? People be like I don't know why they churned. They love us. They gave us a high NPS score, and their health score was green, and all of a sudden they churned. Well, you missed the point. I might love you, but if I don't need the outcome you're helping me solve anymore, or if you're not helping me solve it in the first place, I'm not going to continue paying you. Customer success is all about the destination. Customer experience is all about the journey. How do we get them from where they are to where they want to be? Customer success is literally, there's a definition right there on the whiteboard. Your desired outcome plus your desired experience is what equals your definition of success. And it's all about the outcome. And yet somehow we kind of lost sight of that. And so where leaders get it wrong is they mistake activity for outcomes. And then they start thinking that because they love us, or, we've built this great relationship and they're very happy, that they're going to continue. And that's just not what keeps me as a customer. I might love you, but if I'm not getting my outcome, I'm not going to keep paying you.
Yeah.
Same thing's true on the contrary. I might hate you. I might not trust you, but if you're the only way for me to achieve my outcome, I will continue paying you. Don't mistake that for a good customer experience, though. A perfect example here is a large player in the States, Comcast Telecom, high-speed internet provider. For years, they were the only way for me to have high-speed internet in my home office. And so I was on auto renew every month. But once I got a knock on my door that someone had laid fiber, and now I had another option to achieve that outcome, I immediately made the switch because I had had a terrible experience with Comcast. And so outcome comes first, and then experience. Experience will determine the winners and losers when there's competition on the outcome. But when there's no competition, you almost don't have to worry about experience. It doesn't matter if I like you or not, if I need what you provide. Taxi cabs and Uber, perfect example. Netflix and Blockbuster, perfect example, right? Yeah. All those losers didn't have to worry about experience until there was competition on the outcome. And so that's the first thing that CS leaders get wrong, is they just measure the wrong stuff. Then in terms of how to justify the ROI or prove the ROI to your CFO, there's revenue retention that's first and foremost. Gross revenue retention, GRR, right? You had $100 to retain. How much of that did you retain a year later in terms of annual recurring revenue? That's like table stakes. And that was really where we were born. Was, hey, let's make sure that we can keep the customers that we have acquired, because customer acquisition cost is very high. And now we get in this repeatable revenue model, a little bit of money over time instead of a whole bunch of money up front like we did in the on-premise days. That was where it was all kind of born from. And then from there, we realized, oh, snap, these customer success managers and professionals have a really good opportunity to grow the accounts. And so that's when NRR started becoming something that we could track. But then even today, there's this concept of the customer success qualified lead, or CSQL. And most companies have MQLs and they track those, and then SQLs and they track those. And the sales team fights with the marketing team about not getting the good enough leads. And the marketing team fights with sales and says, yeah, you just didn't close them. And there's all that friction. Now we have CSQLs, which are customer success qualified leads. And this would be where a customer advocates for you and goes and generates net new revenue or a net new lead into your pipeline that you didn't have to go market to. You didn't have to do demand gen. You didn't outbound, inbound, pay-per-click, SEO, all of that's so expensive, as you well know, Stuart. But if you don't have to do that, your acquisition cost is so much less. In fact, it's about 1/13 the overall acquisition cost to acquire that type of lead when it's generated from your current customer base back outwards. So this could be expansion into new business units, intros within the same logo, intros to a new logo, whatever the case may be. And that's where the customer success industry still today, let's see, it was founded in 2005. So 21 years later, customer success still doesn't do a good job of identifying those, tracking those, and then tying those back to the ROI to show that this lead was generated from our activity as opposed to just our typical top of funnel outbound and inbound marketing efforts. And so those are the ways to justify the ROI. Not everybody does it well. Some organizations do. And like the most proficient leaders in CS, they really hone in on that CSQL number. Because if you want to show what value you bring to the enterprise, it's not just about retaining and growing the current accounts. Yeah. It's about generating that net new revenue or logo opportunity.
Yeah. So to go into that a bit deeper, you were saying about how customer success is kind of the mix of customer outcomes and customer experience put together. Customer experience, I can totally see how someone like yourself could go into a company and improve that fairly easily to an extent. Customer outcomes, though, that seems like a totally different nut to crack, because there's a lot more, and we know this as a service business, there's a lot more external factors there as well. How do you help a company improve their outcomes for the customers?
Yeah. In terms of the customer achieving their outcome, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So at its core, my framework through Red Slacks it's called the 3Ds framework. And luckily for my little chicken brain, when I found customer success, I could boil it down to some pretty basic principles. That formula was one of them, right? CS equals CO plus CX. Okay, I can understand that. The other one was taking everything we do and simplifying it down to defining what success is, again, using that definition, delivering on that definition, and then demonstrating that you've done so. That's what we do in customer success. Define what I want in terms of outcomes and experience, right? Not just what I want, but how I want to get it. Then make sure you deliver on that every day, week, month, quarter, year with your clients. And then where a lot of companies fail is on the demonstration piece. Make it so stupidly obvious to me, the value that I get from your products and services, so that I don't have a shadow of a doubt. That's what creates a boring renewal, is what I work with my clients on. That's what you want. Renewals should just be a natural byproduct of the life cycle. Customer success's role is to create the environment so that it is boring. And so what that means is, in terms of how do we deliver on an outcome or improve outcomes for you, every customer is special. It's a unique snowflake, right? To your point, Stuart, just like everybody else. That's what I like to tell them, right? At the end of the day, every product and service has a finite amount of outcomes it can deliver. And they all come down to one of two types. You've either got make me bigger, faster, stronger, right? So there's going to be some kind of like efficiency gain, or there's an ROI involved. That's it, right? It's one or the other. And so identifying what they are for your products and services and being very clear on what you can and cannot do, that's, I think, where a lot of companies struggle as well, is they get out of the perfect ICP fit and here's who we crush it for, and they bleed into we could probably make it do that, or if we just did some custom engineering, or this or that, we could extend the use case to be able to fit for you. And now you bring on a bad fit customer who's going to not be successful without a ton of work on your company's behalf. And so now the experience is clunky. They may or may not get their outcome in the first place. And if they don't, they're now a detractor from you. You would have been better off not bringing that client on in the first place. And so the most important thing is to really understand what your products and services deliver. Find people who have those needs, genuinely have those needs. And then it's a simple matter of success planning to define what that looks like. Use that as your roadmap. Business reviews so that you're demonstrating throughout your life cycle the value that they're getting. and then having that strategic partnership as opposed to being seen as a vendor, being seen as a partner who's operating in a consultative nature. That's what customer success is really about, almost being a consultant with your clients. And a lot of times you can even transcend your product's value proposition in terms of the value that you deliver. If you could just get outside the box. I'm not talking about taking the product outside the box, but what you can do from a services perspective. How can you help make their lives better because you're in it? That's a core competency of customer success management. And so the outcomes really and they're different. That's the other thing. It's important to be aware that your executive stakeholder, probably it's about ROI. I gave you money, show me how I got ROI on that money from my P&L. Your middle line managers, it's probably not. It's probably about how are you making my team faster, better, more efficient, more intelligent, whatever, right? And so that becomes more of the operational side of it as opposed to the ROI conversation. So, and then you've got like your system admins. How easy is it to implement and support? All of these different players have different outcomes that they want in terms of their relationship with you. Your listeners on this podcast have an outcome that they want from listening and tuning in and paying attention to it. They're trying to learn something. They're hoping to get something. Maybe they're just hoping for entertainment or whatever the case may be. But there's something that they want, and they're investing their time in order to achieve that, hopefully.
Yeah.
Every interaction we have, it comes down to that outcome and the experience.
Zan, do you want to ask a question?
Aaron, so you've worked across companies at very different stages, so startups, growth stage, enterprise. Where do you see customer success teams making the same mistakes regardless of size?
That's a good question. Again, I think the most common mistake that I see in the industry is mistaking activity for outcomes, mistaking doing a bunch of stuff for actually moving the needle for your client. That happens a lot, and that happens in any different size company. The larger the organization, the more nuanced the job descriptions should be, so that when I'm a startup, I wear 10 different hats. When I'm a $50 million enterprise company, I can have 10 different people doing 10 different hats, right? And so as it matures, you get more nuanced, more specific. And with that comes economies of scale. If I'm doing the same thing over and over again, I'm going to get a lot better at it than if I'm doing 10 different things over and over again, right? And so as you mature, the job description needs to change. And then also customer segmentation is typically what I come in and do first and foremost when I come in as a fractional CS leader, is understanding what I call the customer landscape and looking at it across, even if we don't advertise this externally, my conversations with leadership have got to be predicated on your top 20% of customers who account for your top 80% of your revenue. Then your other 80% of customers, which account for about 20% of your revenue. And of that 80%, I've got 60% in the middle and then 20% at the bottom that are oftentimes described as our long tail customer. Those are the customers that we brought on at the beginning that have just been with us through the whole journey. They don't pay us very much money, but as we've moved up market, they're this long tail of customer down at the bottom. That segmentation activity and exercise then drives how we do what we do for the 3Ds. Meaning I'm going to execute very differently for a high touch tier 1 customer than I am for a tech touch tier 3. What I do is going to be the same. I still have to define what success is, deliver it, and demonstrate it. But how I do it is going to be very different for someone who pays us very little money versus someone who pays us a lot of money. And what we're trying to create through that whole activity is an intelligent service model. And that's what I see almost universally lacking when I come in as a fractional head is they treat every customer the same. Well, they're all important. We want them all to feel important. Of course, I'm not saying they're not. On the small end, the crumbs make the cake. I get it. But for us to try to pretend like they're all collectively equal, it's just dumb. It just creates an unintelligent way to manage your business. And what ends up happening is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Whoever yells the loudest gets the bug fixed, rather than someone who either pays us more revenue. That's one way to segment, but that's not the only way. It could be a big referenceable logo, a big sexy logo that we can put on our website. Here in Portland, Oregon, we are the mecca for athletic shoes. Nike's headquarters is here. Adidas US World Headquarters is here. Under Armour Shoes World Headquarters is here. And if you land one of those clients, that's a big logo. And so but they are notoriously cheap. So they'll probably pay you very little money because they know they're a big, sexy logo for you. So you might treat them with a high touch model, even though they pay you low touch or no touch revenue. But that, again, is intentional because of the logo. Yeah. Geography could be another one. If I'm trying to break into a specific geo and I get my first customer in that geo, it might be a very small contract, but I want to treat them very high touch. Because again, if we can make them successful, then we can go saturate that market. That would be another. Proximity to ideal customer profile is another one. And this one's actually opposite. It's kind of interesting. The closer to your ICP, meaning the better fit customer that they are, the lower touch they should need. So if it's a stretch fit, we're going to have to put them in a high touch model. And that's where you get into rolling out things like premium support packages and having them actually pay for those services so that you can right size the contract, get the right amount of capital revenue from that customer to offset your overhead. So those are kind of the universal mistakes that I see beyond just like mistaking activity for outcomes and productivity. We don't have any segmentation. There is no intelligent service model. And we're really operating as like a glorified customer support. That's kind of what it ends up being, right? It's reactive, it's firefighting. It's all that stuff that I said at the beginning of the call that I didn't like doing anymore, which led me to CS. A lot of CS organizations are really still operating that way. And it's just simply because they don't have an intelligent service model or any premium support packages to sell in their business units.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. You were involved with CS Angel, which was the first customer success focused angel investment syndicate. What did that experience teach you about which early stage companies actually have customer success figured out versus which ones are flying blind?
Yeah, CS Angel was founded based on the premise that protecting NRR and GRR, growing NRR and protecting GRR are the most critical components of a business today. And what they invest in and then the companies that they help are B2B SaaS companies who affect that number. That's really the scope of CS Angels. And so through that experience, what we've learned is that the best companies, first off, before you even hire someone for customer success, you've got to understand your customer and your ICP. And what I've learned through that experience is seeing that if you don't have a clear ICP, you haven't really defined your product market fit, and you bring in a customer success leader, that can be too early in the maturation of the business. You don't know who your customer is yet, so how are you going to make them successful? And a lot of clients are kind of throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it sticks, right? In terms of product market fit. We're going to bring on some strategic partner customers to help us refine the product, etc. And that's great, but that's a product motion. You don't need a customer success leader to do that. You need a product person working with your customers. And so the lesson learned there is clear ICP, defined outcomes of what your value propositions are. What do you actually deliver? And, you know, again, not the stretch fit, but what was the pain that led the founders to build the thing in the first place? Really having that well defined. A strong onboarding motion. I haven't even touched on the importance of onboarding, but that is the most critical stage of the customer's life cycle in terms of retention and growth. It all starts with onboarding. We've all signed up for a product. And keep in mind, in the SaaS world, it's very easy to sign up for products, buy software. You don't even own it, right? You just go to their website, you sign up, you get your log on, and you start using it. As opposed to installing the servers, installing the software on those servers. The old on-premise days, it was a very different onboarding. It was a very different motion in terms of bringing on a new client. Much higher barrier of entry meant a much higher barrier of exit. Low barrier of entry today means I can go and sign up and then cancel, right? We've all done that. And the reason most of us do that is from onboarding. We sign up, we go into this new product, and we don't know what we're looking at. And we start clicking around, and we're doing our best to try to figure it out. And if it's clunky, we just give up because it's not worth the time to learn it. We haven't gotten the outcomes quick enough. There's a critical metric in customer success called time to value, or TTV. And that's basically from the time that I sign up to when I get my initial compelling value, not total value. That might take me a long time, but getting me to some aha moment. And that's another thing that I work with my clients on, is defining what your first aha moment is and compressing that TTV clock as much as possible. Because the sooner you can get me from sign up to value of some regard, the higher retention rates you're going to have, exponentially higher. It's been proven over the last decade or so. And so focusing on that becomes critical. And so through CS Angel, it really was that customer success doesn't start when you hire your first CSM. Customer success starts when you land your first customer. That's what I personally have learned through my experience over there. And the portfolio companies that CS Angel have invested in are all really good at that. And they're really focused on, again, protecting the GRR and growing the NRR exclusively.
And I'd be really curious to know, with regards to this new AI world that we live in, you know, there's a big debate right now about AI's role in customer success. So some see it as a force multiplier. Others worry it depersonalizes the relationship. So where do you land on that?
That's a good question. That's certainly the hot topic du jour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any industry, customer success is not unique in this regard. Every product is building in their AI agent, their little natural language interface. They're slapping in NLIs on top of their existing products, and then they're going to market saying AI powered whatever. And it kind of reminds me, again, I'm old. I was in technology before the cloud. I've talked about on-premise and everything. I started in technology around the year 2000, when the cloud was becoming a thing and people talked about the cloud. At that time, I was in a regulated industry of healthcare here in the United States, where there's a bunch of privacy concerns. And every CTO will never go to the cloud. Privacy is too important. We'll never trust it. It'll never happen. Now, of course, everyone's on the cloud 20 years later. But back then, everybody talked about the cloud, but nobody knew what the hell they were talking about. They didn't, like, SaaS wasn't even a thing yet. They called it the cloud, right? And it was like, well, what does that even mean? Like, what is the cloud? Like, is there one cloud, or are there a bunch of clouds? Do I have a cloud? Do you have a cloud? Like, do we all have our own clouds? Like, what the hell's a cloud? But everybody talked about that, like, yeah, we're moving to the cloud. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about. It took years to get up to speed with what that really meant. And that's kind of how AI is today. We're building AI. We're an AI powered this. We're an AI that. But they don't even know the history of AI. They don't know where it came from, the iterations, and where we are in the trajectory of what the future holds for AI. They don't know what the current types of AI are. And most importantly, they don't even know what problems they're looking to fix with AI. They're told to go figure out AI, figure out how we're going to use AI, but they don't have a problem to fix. And so I'm actually writing a book. Part of the book is called Problem First versus Technology First AI, the mindset shift from technology first thinking to problem first thinking. And the idea being, look at your operations. So I'll speak specifically to customer success, but this applies to sales and marketing and product and you name it. Find the mundane, time-consuming activities that your people have to do today. What are those? Then back into what are some AI solutions to solve those problems. That's where AI is really effective today. Across the three main prevalent types of AI, applied AI, agentic AI, and generative AI, there are different things they do well, and there are different stages of the customer life cycle to use each of them in different ways. So also be in my book. This is also, I've got two training courses on this on Red Slacks right now as well. But AI-powered customer success is all about problem-first thinking. And realistically, where it lies today is note-taking, summarization, data entry, data gathering, QBR preparation. Those things used to take a lot of time for customer success managers. And what that means is they have less time to do the strategic human capacity of the job, right? Mm-hmm. Again, if we're at our core, really, we should be almost a consultant for our clients, helping them achieve business outcomes. I can have AI go grab me product telemetry data, logins and usage and adoption and engagement, and show me all the different kind of nuts and bolts of what they've been doing in the product, and summarize up all of our notes over the last 90 days and give me sentiment of all the Zoom and Gong calls that we've had over the last 90 days. Build me what the health score looks like in real time and all of that. Great use cases for AI today. Not necessarily going to be the limitation of how AI works, but right now that's really where we're at. That's what AI can do for us. And what that does is frees us up to, hopefully, we should have more time to do the parts of the job that most CSMs and CS leaders want to be doing, frankly. And that's kind of the interesting thing is when people they're fearful of AI. Will AI replace me? That's another chapter in my book. And it's all about augmented customers, AI augmented CSMs. That's what we're looking at, right? And that's where we're at right now is AI is really good at doing the mundane, routine tasks that take so much of our time. And it's a great time to be in customer success or sales or marketing or technology in general, because we have the tools available to streamline that for us. So we can focus on what we want to do. Most salespeople didn't get into sales because they love entering shit into Salesforce. That's not usually the highlight of their week, right? Most people didn't get into customer success because they love summarizing notes and pulling telemetry data out of their product and trying to craft some kind of health score, red, yellow, green thing on their clients. They got into it because they liked helping people, just like I did. When I found it and I found this home, it was like, oh my God, these are people. These are my peeps. I found my family. Like on LinkedIn, I have done this hashtag for 10 years. CS fam, my customer success family. Like I genuinely love the industry. And it's not because of the mundane stuff or, figuring out, is this client yellow or green? And when's our next QBR booked and all that stuff? It's helping them achieve the outcomes they're looking to achieve, making their lives better because I'm in it. That's the goal of a customer success practice. Make people's lives better. And thank God AI is here because it allows us to spend more time focused on that. And that's what I think organizations need to embrace. AI is not a strategy. AI is a tool. And what we need to do is reorganize our operations. That's what should be AI should be creating today, is new workflows, new workflow management, new job descriptions. Because frankly, what we have to do today is completely different than what we had to do 1 or 2 years ago before all these tools became readily available.
Yeah.
And so CS is no different than other organizations, sales and marketing, et cetera. I think they have the same challenges. It's not about replacing people. It's about augmenting and changing the work that people do. Computers were going to replace people too. And then people learned, oh, shit, I better learn how to type and use a computer or else I'm going to be obsolete. And so we all adapted. AI is the same thing. It's just a new, very powerful tool that we can use. But what that means is the skill set is changing, and AI is the new literacy. I had someone say that to me about a month ago, and it's stuck. Because again, chicken brain, I got to make things simple. It's the new literacy. We have to all become literate in these new capabilities. Oh, and by the way, they're constantly changing and going to continue to constantly change. And so that's where it fits in. I don't think it's unique to CS per se, but it's really more about change management and operational maturation, I'll call it, evolution maybe, as opposed to we're going to fire the whole team and implement a bunch of agents and they're going to be they're our new customer success managers. That's just not how it's going to work. People will still buy from people. People will still renew and expand and grow from people. It's just how those relationships are built is going to be augmented, and it already is, through the new capabilities of that technology.
Yeah. So when you or when a company brings you in for the first time as a fractional customer success leader, what are the first 3 things that you're looking at to diagnose the health and the state of their customer success org?
A couple different things. First off, that segmentation exercise. I like to come in and get an understanding of what the landscape of the customer looks like. Who are, and then I like to just anecdotally work with whoever's been working with customers. Tell me who your best customer is. And, what does your gut feel? When I ask you who your best customer, top 3 customers, who are they and why? And start unpacking that, because that's really what defines the ICP. The marketing might think the ICP is this over here, but in the real world, it could be a completely different picture. And so I like to start there. So segmentation first and foremost, so I can understand what we're looking at in terms of the customer landscape. The next, interviewing the team. There is nothing more valuable than talking with the people who work with customers routinely. And so I go through a one-on-one interview process across the team. Usually it's about 30 to 45 minutes, and I go through a stop, start, continue exercise. So if you could wave a magic wand and never have to do something ever again, what would that be in the stop? What do you think we should be doing, but we're not? And then what's working on the continue? What should we make sure we don't touch? And so I go through, and that's kind of the tip of the sword for what I've got packaged up as a customer success assessment. As I come through and I do that, I understand your customer, I understand what your people are feeling and experiencing. And then the third thing is I can kind of parachute in and get hooked into your systems, and I can start doing my own analysis of your customer success operations. What are we doing proactively, if anything? What does it look like on the reactive side? What are the common themes and trends across what customers are saying, either positively or negatively? And then how does that correlate back to what I learned in those interviews with the people? And then what does that translate to in terms of the customer landscape, so that I can build out a true customer health of tier 1, 2, 3, or platinum, gold, silver, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But being able to put that in place. And then after about 6 to 8 weeks, I'll come back to the leadership and present those findings. And it comes, basically the deliverables end up looking like a project plan. Here's what I would fix in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I call it the MVP. And so there's your low-hanging fruit. Doesn't require additional investment, no additional hires, no new tooling or technology.
Yeah.
Based on your current tech stack, here's what I would change from a process perspective primarily. And then a 12-month blueprint of actually to get you from where you are to what a best in class CS practice would look like. Here's what the next 12 months should look like, chunked up into 3 stages, 3 months for phase 1, 3 months for phase 2, and then about 6 months for phase 3 to go through and actually get you from kind of like good, better, best, if you will. So that's what I do when I come in, is that assessment program first and foremost, because that then leads to how else I could help, if at all. Sometimes that might be all they need. They've already got their people in place and they're off and running. Then I can disengage. Or a lot of times they want me to come on for an extended engagement to help fill in the gaps of what we found during that assessment process.
Yeah. Can I go into something there in a bit more depth? You were saying about how one of the first things you do is, asking like, who are your favorite clients right now? And then from that, you can sort of work backwards to figure out the ICP. I sometimes do that exercise myself because I always think, well, you want more of them, don't you? You want more of the ideals. But a lot of the time when I think about that and I pick, maybe who our favorite clients are, and I think about why are they that way or why are they our favorite, it's very common, like subjective and soft things. So it could be, for example, that they just really value the stuff that we're doing, because we also have people on the other side of that where we think we can do unbelievably well, but they don't think it's good enough, So there's that. And then there's other things such as being, let's call it empathetic, where like if something goes wrong, they understand. And this, you know what I mean? And there's a level of kind of understanding there. But like, how do you target for those things? You know what I mean? How do you bring in those types of customers? Because you kind of don't know until they've signed up with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think it's it's very easy for my clients to answer, who's your best customer? Anecdotally, from your gut, who do you feel? The more difficult question, to your point, Stuart, is my follow-up answer or question of why? What is it that makes you feel that way? And yeah, it could be because they're laid back, they're chill, they're easy, they understand bugs happen, they're cool, they get it. They understand the value, they value what we do, etc. But then it's about, I don't know, you guys have probably seen Simon Sinek Start with the Why at the old pod, or the 5 Whys framework. Like, it's about getting into that second, third, fourth level of understanding behind the why. That's what I think most people struggle with, is really getting down to the brass tacks. So if there's a client who values what you do and another client who doesn't value as much what you do, the question is why. There is a reason. It's not just a personality thing. Either this client is getting more value, or they know it better, or they understand how difficult it is more in greater detail, or something. There's something in their perspective that is different than the one who doesn't value it as much. And so unpacking that and this is where that consultative nature of a customer success professional is so critical. Being able to really get down in the weeds and thoroughly understand the why behind their gut. And again, it's not about happiness scores. It's about outcomes, and delivering on those. And so really understanding what those differences look like. And then I think another way I like to approach it is, all right, who's your worst customer? Who's the one who's just a pain in the ass? Every time they email you or they get on a call, they're short, they're abrupt, they're rude, they're straight to the point, they don't have any patience for anything, and blah, blah, blah. And understanding what is it about them. And sometimes it's going to be the geography they live in, the industry they operate in. When I was a technical account manager 100 years ago, I had a client that was in Detroit, Michigan, which is a very blue collar city, right? very kind of rough city. And my client was the largest office furniture manufacturer in America. And this woman would get on our weekly like bug review call, and she didn't want to talk about anything. She was straight at it, like, what'd you do last weekend? Doesn't matter. Let's go. Let's get to it, right? I'm too busy. I've got a million things going on. Okay. And for some reason, one week I mentioned I've got a buddy who grew up in Detroit. And I love watching his Facebook feed every Sunday when the Detroit Lions football team is playing, because he just laments about the Lions. If they're ahead, his posts are all about how they're going to let him down. And if they're behind, his posts are all about how they're a bunch of bums and they always lose. She hooked onto that like a fish to a line. I couldn't believe, oh, yeah, they're a bunch of bums. They let me down every year and blah, 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 blah. Now I knew I had my thing to get to know her. So every Sunday I checked the Lions score. So every Tuesday morning when I hopped on, I could lament with her for just a minute or two. Wasn't going to spend a whole lot of time, but I found something. Everybody has something. We're all people, holistic people at the end of the day. We've got our professional life and we've got our personal life. Some of us mix those together. Some of us keep those completely separate. It's all about your personality and what you're comfortable with. But in customer success, if we can find something on the personal side to get to know them as holistic human beings, not just customers and we're the vendor, we transcend that relationship. We start to build something deeper and more meaningful. And being able to do that is an art, not a science. There's something in there. And my point is, you can sometimes build that based on lamenting or what you collectively don't like as opposed to what you do like, right? But everybody's got something. Same thing working internally. In CS, we don't typically bring good news to the engineering department and the product team. We're usually bringing a flaming bag of shit and we're dropping it on their desk and saying, fix it. It's this customer and they're this much ARR and they're this important and blah, 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 blah. And so the more we can get to know those humans who have to do the fixing, the better. So I coach my teams to do that, get to know them as people. Back pre-COVID, it was a lot easier. When we were all in offices together, you could go over to their desk and find a trinket or something that they got sitting there, Star Wars figure or something from Minecraft or whatever, and now you know something about them. And you can get to know them as a person. And I used to coach my teams to go over there once a week, just swing by and just talk to them about something that's not work, so that the 9 other times you walk up to their desk this week with a problem, there's an inkling in the back of their mind that maybe you're there to talk about Star Then maybe you're coming. It's not always doom and gloom, because what we bring is typically not good news. And then also obviously like providing accolades, and when there is good news, surfacing that up, and all of that's super important. But this, I mean, at the end of the day, people are people, and we've got to be able to find a way. And this gets back to kind of where AI can help us have more time to focus on that. But there is no like carte blanche answer. There is no magic key to unlock that. It's all about the person and their personality, and finding some way to get them what they want in terms of outcomes and how they want in terms of experience. Again, it all comes down to those two things. And if you're doing that, if I'm getting what I want and I'm getting it how I want it, and I know it, I will renew. I'm not going to churn. I'm not going to explore other opportunities. Same thing is true for leaders and their team. Your team, your individual contributors have outcomes that they want from working at your organization: money, savings, health insurance, safety, retirement, something. And they have an experience in which they want to achieve it. Work from home, in the office, hybrid, 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, whatever the case may be, right? We all have that. And the reason they don't reply to LinkedIn recruiters is because they know they're getting what they want, they're getting it how they want it, and that's what creates success for them. And when they start to reply to those recruiters, it's because they're either not getting their outcome or not getting it the way they want in terms of an experience. And so they're experiencing friction. The exact same principles apply internally in an organization as they do externally with our customers. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding that thing, right? Some way, somehow. How do you want to achieve your desired outcomes? And spoiler alert, the easiest way to do that is to actually ask them. Have conversations. Here's what I understand we're going to help you achieve. Now let me talk to you about the ways I can help you achieve it. What fits into your life? That's why QBRs are stupid. Here's another one. I wrote an article back in 2022 called QBRs are stupid. And people like lost their minds because they all did QBRs. But the reason they're stupid is because they're quarterly. Like, who picked quarterly? Like, yes, sometimes I want to meet with you and have you tell me how great you are and show me all the value I've gotten and all of that. Other times, I want you to leave me the hell alone. I'm too busy. I don't have time to talk to you this quarter. And so the whole concept of a quarterly business review, it's just like this nebulous number. Every 90 days, we got to get on a call and show you all this crap. And so it starts to create friction. The whole goal of a QBR is to demonstrate the value you've been delivering, right? It's a part of that third D I talked about. But when you force it on me, you've now increased the level of friction in my CX part of the formula. And so you've actually degraded the amount of success I feel just because you're trying to show me the amount of outcomes and value that I've achieved. Mm-hmm. And so fitting into my work-life balance, my style, my seasonality, there's going to be different times where I'm busier and I don't want to talk to you, and other times where I'm less busy and I do, where I have some strategic initiative and I see you as a consultative partner with me, not a vendor who sells me something. Your job is to help me achieve my definition of success. That's an awesome job to have. That should be a partner. But if you force me into your nebulous processes and it doesn't work for my lifestyle, my work style, then now you've actually created friction in the relationship. And you're doing it all out of the right, the right pretenses, but the execution ends up creating friction. That QBRs are stupid articles on Red Slacks as well. If anybody wants to read it, there's an articles page on my website. The 3Ds is on there if anybody wants to read more about that. But there's a lot, I think, that can be learned for customer success in the B2B space, learned from the direct-to-consumer, even social media spaces. A perfect example is the Wrapped campaign that Spotify rolled out 5-6 years ago. They're getting grief for it now because it's like, it's not accurate because people share logins, right? Like I get a report and it shows me that I listen to a bunch of little kid music, and that's because my kid uses my login. And so, it doesn't provide me value. 5-6 years ago, it was blowing people's minds. And all that was an annual business review. They were showing me the value I got for my subscription paid every month at the end of the year so that next year I don't cancel and I leave them on my credit card statement. That was a genius move in terms of customer success management. Those types of activities can be done to provide scale while still adhering to those 3Ds that I talked about.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it with the Spotify Wrapped. How are people best to get in touch with you if they want to set up a meeting?
My website, redslacks.com, is a great place to find me. There's a contact me forum there. There's also links to all my socials. LinkedIn, there's my LinkedIn URL. If you just search Aaron Thompson Customer Success, you'll probably find me. You could Google Aaron Thompson and CS, and I better come up after all these years. Otherwise, my SEO is atrocious. But those are probably the two easiest places to track me down. And I'd love to talk to anybody about anything CS. I like to say that my brain will never be picked dry, and I get a lot of people reaching out to pick my brain on stuff, and I'm perfectly happy to do that. And just like I said, I want to help people be successful in customer success. That's really my goal, both organizationally as well as individually.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time today, Aaron. It's been awesome. And for the viewers and listeners, thanks for tuning in as always. And we'll see you in the next episode of Fractional Impact.